Oh, we're going to do the video first? Okay, let's do the video.
Am I on?
Yeah, just stare right at me.
I think I am.
No pressure.
So thank you for indulging us, Council, Grieving Council, and good afternoon, because it is afternoon now.
Afternoon now.
So we have a short PowerPoint that we wanted to show, just a very short PowerPoint outlining Judy's career in the past 20-plus years now, and her career, which started in Irricana, and still she works there today, but she also works with us here at Wheatland County. So, understand you have the controls? I do. Okay. So what is short? Well, it's slide 1 of 462. No. So Judy Unsworth was presented with the Exemplary Service Medal on May 27th of this year, and that's a early picture of when she was a captain with Rocky View County. So Judy is serious when she needs to be, but she knows how to have fun, and she's oh yeah, she's quite a vocal person in the fire community for women in the fire service. She's on a committee for that, not a committee, yeah, it is a committee, which strives for equality in the fire service for women. And now across Canada, because I had nominated her for the Canadian Association Fire Chief Committee for Women. She doesn't know that yet. Okay. Judy answered the call to serve over 20 years ago. And she started in Station 108, which at the time was called Station 56, the Fighting 56 in Irricana. And she is a product of her upbringing. In the bottom picture in the left, that's the little person is Judy, and that's her mother, a very strong woman and a very, very dear friend of my own family.
We see that look every day.
Yeah. So Judy is a proud female firefighter, but she's not a female firefighter. And I've worded this many times, and I've said it to Judy herself. There's no such thing as a female firefighter. There are firefighters who happen to be female. Okay. Judy is very proud of her profession and all of its traditions that we hold. And some of our traditions are hundreds of years old. Up there is a memorial bell, and it's rang only at the funeral of a firefighter. And in the bottom corner is our new challenge coin that we gave all of our firefighters here in Wheatland County at our awards banquet. Oh yeah, I'm in the middle picture too. And over on the left is one of Judy's and my joint heroes, Chief Rick Lasky from, he's from the deep south of the United States in Texas. He's written several books. He's a real leadership on pride and ownership and traditions in the fire service. Okay. Judy is very proud of her family, both at home and at the station. And there's her crazy husband, Kelly, her fiance, Kelly, in several of those pictures. Her crew, I believe that's in Irricana, that picture in the bottom. And her father, a retired staff sergeant with the Mounties. She's a very proud mother, and she raised Ted pretty much as a single mother for most of his life, and all at the same time a very active firefighter in her community, and he's turned out to be a wonderful young man. Are you crying yet, Judy? Judy has a reputation in this fire industry. She's a very trusted leader of her crews. When she is in action, she's on point. She doesn't sway from her game plan. She's very strategic in her operations, and at the hall, she can be like a mother.
And so we look, I'm surprised we look so clean.
Where the one guy's looking at you like it's about time we got fed.
Yeah.
Judy's continuously training, and that's not only here, but in Irricana, with the crews in Rockview, constantly training and doing continuing education, which speaks volumes when she's in command and in action. And she's always prepared to respond. In the middle of the night, doesn't matter when. Up in the corner is one of the stations she was a captain in Rockview, Balzac. And grabbed a picture. It wasn't from the training course. I think that's an actual response down in the bottom left. Yeah, it wasn't a training exercise. And there's a couple of action shots there. Actually, that house fire one is in Irricana. She's always on the highway. She's working with stars. A couple of those photographs are there. There's a trailer fire. Again, that was in the heart of the booming metropolis of Irricana. And motor vehicle training. That was an actual call, yes. It was a bad one, too, as I recall.
Library, and I was president of the library board, so we're really, really proud. Library board sign on it. One of your other
Okay.
so almost that became the call.
So I threw this one in for a little humor. Says, you know, guys, if we let it burn down to our level, I think we could beat this one. They might as well.
Nothing we can do.
Judy is very invested in her community, very involved in fire prevention activities, education activities. The bottom picture in the middle there, that's us at the most recent, what do they call that? Something night market in Strathmore. So that's a crew from Wheatland West. Above where they're standing on a rail there, they're actually on top of a building doing a fundraising for their department. In the bottom corner is a very meaningful one, that little boy looking out the window. He, Kelly and, well, several of the members from Irricana got quite involved in supporting this young man in his final days. He was battling cancer.
The truck that you see there,
Yeah,
that's their.
that's their engine.
So this little boy really and so I put out so I put out notice to all firefighters I knew. All firefighters, and there was several
it's things like that you remember. Here's some more current pictures of Judy. The young man in the middle was from Irricana area, I know.
So his name, he has that, all the other kids were taking the most grad. Probably 4 of you should go with them. I picked names out of a hat. Fire truck, and she said, "Oh yeah, there's the fire truck." They put on the siren, and they drove into the laneway. He started to jump in his wheelchair. The fire truck and took him to grad.
Judy honors her people. She doesn't ever forget to thank her people and honors them always. You see our most recent awards night, Phil Fobian receiving the Zachariason Award. Gay, who's been our admin assistant for so long and did such good work. Pastor Don up in the corner, the first ever pastor in Alberta to receive the Alberta Emergency Services Medal. No one's ever forgotten, and Judy's very abundant with her thank yous. This honor that she received, the Exemplary Service Medal, is well deserved, and I couldn't think of a better person to nominate for this award on behalf of the county. That is our presentation. Thank you for indulging us, Council.
There's been quite a few other people from your department that have been quite successful.
We always joke that go through the first Is that what you're asking?
It's in Red Deer right now.
So Ken McCollum started with me, and he actually got his.
Thank you, Judy. Yeah. Okay, back to the procedural bylaw.
So, Mr. Chairman, upon review, the last review was done in 2013, shortly after I arrived at the procedural bylaw. In light of the new Municipal Government Act and the schedule of reviewing bylaws on a regular basis, there's a few recommendations included in here. There is a track changes document attached, which shows you the proposed changes that staff is recommending, and we're asking that council consider giving first reading to this bylaw and possibly second reading today.
Any questions?
One small clerical note on page 356, it refers to section under 5.6A.
Go through the bylaw.
5.6A. It refers to section 4.4, and I think it should be 5.5. I believe, yeah. And then my only other comment, and it applies to some of our bylaws, and forgive me, I didn't go through the MGA really carefully about it, but just, and maybe it's not worth doing, like I totally recognize that as well. Just wondering if it would be worth looking at simplifying some of these bylaws. Like, I realize that we need to have some of the disciplinary stuff in there, but like I did look at a few other procedural bylaws for other municipalities, and a lot of them are simpler. Like, they don't necessarily go into the questions of privilege and points of procedure and just the way it's worded. I think we still need some, and I freely admit it might not even be worth looking at, because I realize we need to have it, and if we do need to ever like deal with a counselor on a disciplinary note or something like that, we need to have stuff like that in there, but I don't know what the rest of council thinks.
I prefer it in there.
No, I'm not saying
Yeah.
take it out, I'm just,
Yeah.
some of them are much more kind of layman's terms, if you will, or whatever.
We used to have one that only had about 6 sentences, about a half a page. It says just as much as this one. You should treat each other with respect. If you're asking for first and second reading, then third reading, you would have it in its final form. So we're really looking for amendments or questions or changes you'd like to see now. Yeah, second reading.
Amber, I appreciate what you're saying. I think some of this was written in by necessity. Past. But with that, I would make a motion that bylaw 2018-19 be given first reading.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question in regards to that? Councillor Link has indicated there is a correction required and under 5.6A. So could we adjust the motion to indicate as revised?
Yes.
As revised.
Yeah. Okay, any questions? All in favor? All in favor? Carried.
I'll make the motion that bylaw 2018-19 be given second reading as revised.
Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Request for decision report, Village of Hazar viability plan and next steps.
Mr. Chairman, this is an update. This is the plan that the viability review team has come up with, and it's been approved by the ministry. The Ministry of Municipal Affairs will be hosting a meeting in Hazar on June 19th, and it is staff's recommendation that council should attend that if they're able to. Not to provide necessarily the input into that at that session, but to hear what the public has to say and encourage any adjacent property owners around Hazar to attend that meeting and voice their concerns. In follow-up to that meeting, I'll likely be preparing a request for decision, just probably asking council to send a letter to the ministry expressing your concerns in that regard. And that would be kind of the process as we move forward.
Okay.
So.
Just a comment on the wording of the motion. Why is it is the last half of that sentence at the end of it in there? Don't we have a policy that once council has approved attendance, that is met?
If council instructs or provides a motion to reimburse, yes.
Yeah, it's.
That's why I put it in there, just to be clear on it, that there would be
Usually,
expectation for.
if council approves it, then then you can claim your per diem, right? Doesn't have to be in the motion. Because we haven't had it in any other ones, or is that just in something that's, I don't have an issue with it, I just thought it was redundant.
Okay, yeah, and it very well could be, for sure.
Okay. Everyone understand? Are you moving, Ben? Without-
Yeah, that we accept the information
Okay.
as the viability.
Any questions?
Well, I would just as soon it not be there, because to me it's redundant, and we have a policy that covers that anyways. Delete the last "and further that they."
Any questions, Scott?
Just wondering, should we prepare, or does staff have anything that we have to submit to at the meeting? Any concerns that we have, or should we talk about it now?
Mr. Chairman, as I indicated, the perspective of council would be to attend and hear what the public has to say, and then a letter would be put together by council to the ministry. This is not to be directed by Wheatland County Council or staff. This is totally municipal affairs, but it's good to hear what the public has to say. And I know that Ben's been actively involved through the whole thing, and we've had a couple other public meetings, and there's been some very good comments from the public, so I think it'd be worthwhile hearing that. So at this time, I would suggest probably not. Yeah.
I think the first one I've ever went to, we were told not to speak. And I said I wouldn't go to another meeting like that again.
I don't think municipal affairs wants council to be interactive at that meeting at all. Strictly information for.
That's right.
Just a question, I'm just trying to figure, I've read the viability, like, option A, option one, option two. What happens if, as I understand the municipality, what I read is it's got the final say? What happens if the majority of the people, the municipality, or
If the minister,
the viability plan says no, it's not a viable option, and everybody in the area says it is a viable option, like,
it's
do
not,
they have-
if the town votes, if the minister thinks it's viable, there will be no vote. If the minister thinks it's non-viable, then it comes back to the member, or am I the other way around? But the minister will collect the information, and once the town has their vote, if the minister says it's viable, nothing changes. If the minister says it's not viable, then the town has a vote, and if the residents vote that they want to stay as a municipality, then the minister will give them conditions that they have to follow. But yeah, they will have the right for the vote, but the minister will
they have
then,
guidelines, like, I'm just trying to figure out.
very
exactly-
strict guidelines.
Yeah, so there's no vote yet. This is public information for municipal affairs. Wheatland County residents don't get a vote. Doesn't seem fair, but that's the way the process is. So if it did go to the next step, Councillor Armstrong's 100% correct. There would be a vote potentially, or they would say you're viable, but here's some of the things we recommend. There's some recommendations in the report, as you probably noticed. So it could go either way, right? It all depends what they say. The ministry has never gone against the vote of the public except for once. There was a vote of, I think it was a 2-vote difference, and they said, no, the community happened to be, they dissolved that community. Yeah. Yeah.
Allegedly.
Okay. Ben's made a motion. Is there any other questions? All in favor? Carried. Request for decision, historical resource designation bylaw. Any questions?
Do we, if we approve, is this a cost to the county? Do we have to maintain it? Who's looking after this?
He's fixing it himself.
Yeah, I know he is now, but
Yeah.
it has to meet, if it becomes a historic, doesn't it have to meet certain?
It said we'd enter into an agreement with no cost to the county. So that will be in a document that we would both sign.
So
Yes.
if it comes to a time that they don't want to maintain it, then what happens?
So if we grant it to him without no cost to us, but gives him the option at such a time if the province has some support, he can get that, but he can't get the provincial support without municipal recognition. And, yeah, he's restoring it right down probably to the replica nails and shakes for sure, and he'd like to continue on with it, yeah. Because next year is the 100th anniversary of the village of Rocky Ford. And this year, I believe, is the 100th anniversary of the church. I got a plaque here for the church, yeah, for St. Rita's. But yeah, that's his ask.
And I was looking at that too. The wording is just, it says a compensation agreement will be entered into with Mr. Ropel, agreeing that while no person shall destroy, disturb, alter, restore, or repair an historic resource that has been designated without the written approval of the council or a person appointed by the council for that purpose, Wheatland County will be absolved of any future claims of compensation due to the designation for the upkeep and restoration of the property. So.
I see just the two, this year's a slightly different bylaw. Can you explain it to me? We just do the two readings today? Then we'd have a public hearing, or it comes back at another meeting to finish it off? Okay. All right,
Yeah,
Councillor.
Mr. Chairman, the reason that we're doing that is this isn't an urgent thing, same as the one before. It's not
Right.
an urgent thing. So prefer to give some time for everybody to understand where we're at with that before the final motions are made.
Okay. Understood. Council's wishes.
It looked like part of the reason too was just, I think sometimes these are approached where the municipality goes to the landowner and requests, or like there might be an interest group that might request something is made a historic designation, and this is a little bit different. So it's something about the timelines of the 60-day waiting period and the 120-day and that kind of thing. So I think we would do third reading when that waiting period expires, but there was some commentary in here just outlining that because this is a fairly time-sensitive project for Mr. Ropel, he could get started on it sooner if we start the first reading.
I'll move first reading. Any questions? All in favor? Carried.
I'll move second reading.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, Ben, or Scott's moved second reading. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Corporate and financial services.
Mr. Chairman, our GM is away at a conference this week, well, till Thursday. So I'm here to represent his report. If there's any questions, I'll try to answer them as best I can. So make them easy for me, please.
Any questions?
I'll move the financial report.
Okay. Any questions? All in favor? Carried.
I'm going to turn it over to our newly appointed General Manager of Transportation and Infrastructure, Mike Zier. Officially on his second day in the job, so be easy on him too.
Okay. Okay. So you're brand new at
Yeah, I
the,
had my day, easy day yesterday, right? Yeah, that's
Okay.
great. Eh?
so whenever you're ready, Mike.
Sure. Good morning, council.
Afternoon.
It just ran on here. Just ran on. I was ready to come in the morning though. Yeah, so my report is there in front of you. If you have any questions on it. Couple highlights. We actually just closed the tender for the Capital Works in Carsland late last week. And I just got the results this morning. I apologize for not having them printed off for you, but we had 5 compliant bidders post. 7 bidders picked up, 5 actually put bids in, and we have a low bidder that is well under budget, $855,000. I think we had about 1.4 million budget for that. Next highest bid was 1.13, so they came in significantly lower than the other applicants, to the other bidders. It's a good company. We've got, I haven't worked personally with them here, but the engineering consultants work with them and has good things to say about them, so that's positive. So that's good. Good numbers coming in on that. Yeah, if there's any other questions on the report, I'm here to answer them.
Through the chair, it's not on the report, but I've been questioning a couple of times, but these little black plastic fences that are all over the place in the ditches, how long do they stay in place before they're removed, or are they ever removed? Or do we remove?
Yeah, the silt fencing, I think, is what you're referring to. Through the chair, the silt fencing is put in at the end of a construction project to catch any sedimentation or erosion that comes off the hills and keep it from going in the waterways. It's typically meant to be maintained and removed at the end of the cycle when the rehabilitation of the land is complete. So when the grass catches, that sort of thing. We've us and the contractors both have not been kept up on that in the past year. So actually I had a conversation this morning with our engineer about looking at better erosion protection plans to come in place, as well as follow up on making sure these are cleaned up after the fact. The process we have right now is we build a road, or a contractor builds a road. We go back if there's problem areas, but typically we don't go back after the job's complete. We're looking at changing that, looking at having a follow-up, at least for the next couple of years, because we are finding problems that we only get made known of when the landowner calls us. So we're trying to avoid that.
Yeah, because they've been at the coffee shops out there, and that's where I heard about it, because I said, no, that's not true. And then they wondered why that was there then. It's because they said, well, it's because they're protecting the what the hell do you call them? No, I can't even. Cattails.
Wetlands.
No, not the wetlands, the cattails. It's there to protect it. I said, no, it's not there to protect the cattails. It's to stop the erosion and until the grass actually gets established is what I've been telling them.
Yeah, and through the chair, like I say, with the silt that comes down off those roads, you'll see them around culverts. Stop the silt from going into the culverts and then plugging them up is the main purpose of those, but also to protect it from going in the wetlands. It is pretty detrimental to wildlife in the low sloughie areas. So.
Okay, well, I got my answer for Mr. Teddy anyways.
Any other questions?
Very good.
I guess while we're on that subject of erosion, you're aware of that erosion on the Rocky Ford Road by Springvale Colony on top of the hill?
For sure.
Have you got in contact with them yet or not?
Not with the landowner there, no. But that's the consultant we have right now is looking at an action plan for all of our. We've got about 4 or 5 major areas that we need to go back and over the winter, and even last year some of them were eroding. So that's one of the ones on the list for sure.
Okay, well, you'll be getting a hold of them and.
Yeah.
Okay.
And through the chair, thank you from Rockland Farms. Somebody went out and talked to him about his approach around where his bins are, that he's having trouble getting his trucks out.
Yep.
So he says, thank you for that. He's, it hasn't been done yet, but at least he knows it's on the list and there will be doing something for it. So big thank you from him.
Okay, any other questions, concerns, thoughts? Motion to accept. Don has moved, all in favor? Carried. Request for decision, acquisition of road widening. Range Road 213.
was trying to figure out, so they built the road without permission, and they built it off-center, so now they're agreeing to give us to put the road back in the center? Still not on the road, it's off-center of the road lines? That, what they're, so that they get back slope, or back setbacks, or what's, why are we doing this? I guess was my question.
So through the chair, this applicant had a approval for subdivision. One of the conditions was that they provide legal and physical access. They had legal, they didn't have physical, they'd have to build a road. My understanding is that they went ahead and built it without our knowledge. So we stopped them when we found out about it, sent off our engineers to do an as-built survey. It was basically done when we found out about it. As-built survey, the road was actually in fairly good condition. They built a good road. They just built it off-center. They built it on private land, or a portion of it was on private land. So we got that surveyed. We got it all marked out. The discussion was whether to have them move the road or to widen the road allowance. Moving the road doesn't do anybody any favors. They can't build it as well as it is right now. It'll admix with the side slopes and everything. So agreement was made with the landowners to dedicate that 5-meter strip there. That'll put the entire road in there, encompass the road entirely inside the road allowance now. So it's a 15-meter or a 25-meter wide road allowance now, rather than a 20-meter wide. They've dedicated it. They're going to pay all the costs for survey, land titles, everything like that.
So that's through that whole section?
Through the whole section, yep. Yeah, not just for the small piece there. We asked for the whole quarter.
Okay.
So that's the background on that one.
Okay. There was no penalty for him building it without permission?
There's nothing in our land use bylaw as far as building a road. There's definitely development penalties for building without approval, but nothing. It's the first time we've had this that I'm aware of, at least. Usually they delay building the road, not go ahead.
Yeah, I guess if there'd have been a penalty, it would have been if they hadn't built it to the right standard, they'd have had to
Oh, yeah, we would have, through the chair, we would have made them remove it entirely. If they didn't agree to this, then
did a
the
good
next
job.
step was to
Okay.
take it out.
Thank you.
Council's wishes? Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Request for decision, communication tower co-location lease.
Question I had of this, on your map, it shows the location up in the northeast corner, up on the hills up at Dallam. I think I know where the tower is, but the map below that shows Clooney, just northeast of Clooney. So I think it was just a misprint of this. I don't think this map is supposed to be here. This one northeast of Clooney on section 34.
It should be through the chair, it should be in the northwest 15, 2619.
Up in the northeast corner of the county. Yeah, okay. That's what I thought. And I wasn't sure if there was two locations or, so, okay, good enough. So I'll move the recommended action that the co-location
Okay, any questions?
is a little high in price though, but.
Kidding, I'm looking at that, but
Whatever. It's cheaper than building the tower.
Yeah. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Request for decision, regulatory sign reach on Range Road 254 and Township Road 230.
I mean, it's just an observation, but if you're not yielding on that intersection and pretending that it's a four-way stop anyhow, you're crazy, because that whole correction line set there is all suicidal in there if you're just closing your eyes and driving through there. But like, we have the signage there, the yield sign now, and it's not a big deal to put stop signs there. But I don't imagine what it's gonna solve any problems, you know. I guess we could set a bylaw officer up there and the guys will be creeping through the Hollywood or California stops through them, but, maybe that's what.
There was a ratepayer a near miss, and that's what brought this to, like, there's been a few, but this last one, I guess that's what it came to me about. I move that the replacement of the existing yield signs with stop signs on Range Road 254, where it intersects with Township Road 230.
Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Request for decision, Rosebud Septic Tank Maintenance. Tom?
Just a question, are we charging these people anything? Because we're gonna, like, is there a per charge, like, does it increase on what they're gonna do? Because we're gonna give them a report if they ask for it and all that kind of stuff. That's all gonna take up staff time, right? So I'm just wondering what the policy for that is?
So through the chair, there is an increased cost. Well, there's an additional charge on the Rosebud utility rates that you'll see actually in the next RFD coming up here. There's a certain cost put aside for covering the costs of the pumping. There's been no cost put aside for staff time internally here, just like we do for any other utility rates, the billing. We don't charge for taking the billing or the meter reads or anything like that. So we incorporate this into making sure that our infrastructure is up to snuff and maintained. That's where we see the benefit of using staff time to and not charging out for it.
Any other questions? Council's wishes?
I'll move that Wheatland County Council approve policy 9.7.4 Rosebud Septic Tank Care and Maintenance.
Okay, no questions. I might add that quite a number of the residents in Rosebud have been waiting patiently for quite some time to have the means to get this done. So yeah, good thing. Nothing else. I'll ask for the vote. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Request for decision, water and wastewater rates, 3-year rate structure. Questions?
Following up with Tom's concern, the septic tank maintenance is blank, so is there going to be a cost put in there, or? Because, yeah, but I mean, do we set that at some point? Does it come back to council and we know what it is and put it in there?
No, so through the chair, you'll see on the side here, this is actually our current rates. So we don't have a rate for the Rosebud septic tank. That goes right to September 1st of 2018. Starting September 1st of these three columns to the right of that, if they show up on the screen. So you'll see that there's a $12.50 charge for the next 3 years to cover the cost of that pumping. So, per month, correct. Or, yes, per month, thank you.
Go ahead, Tom.
Okay, just going over the Hamlet of Gleason. There's a Western Irrigation conveyance charge. Now is that just a continuation, because there is no longer a conveyance charge out of the county of Wheatland, because we're not pulling any water out of that canal anymore, right? So is this just another way to get another $14 a month, because they're paying abysmally cheap water rates, because it costs us way more than that to get water to them. So is that 14, 15 a month just sort of, so what I'm proposing, or what I think should happen, is I don't think we can have across the board water rates like at $1.68 a cube, because I can make the case that it's got to be way cheaper for your water coming out at Carsland and Speargrass, because we're not paying any conveyance charges to the WID. And so I know it makes your job, makes staff's job easier when everything is here, but I think we have to figure out a way that we have to find the real dollar costs of what each individual plant is doing. And then, the water in Gleason is going to be more money than the water in Carsland. I just think it's, at least in my head, is the way that it would work. You've got advantages to living in Gleason in the fact that it costs you less money to live in Gleason, because your house is worth less money, or you can buy a house for less money than you can, say, in Speargrass. But so I have a real issue. I think we have to be transparent to everybody to say what the true cost is, because it's this way here. I think the people in Speargrass and Carsland are subsidizing the people in Gleason, and every ratepayer in Wheatland is subsidizing the Hamlets.
It's true, like, we absolutely are. I think from what we've seen from the rationale that I remember from staff presenting this, is that with this 15% increase per year, we're moving closer towards cost recovery. We're obviously not going to be there. Somewhere like Rosebud, where it currently is right now, where was it $17 a cube?
$17.50.
$17.50 a cube. If we start looking at that, like, I think some places it's going to take some time to get towards cost recovery. And the reason why I was in favor of this is, from my perspective, for my ratepayers in my area, is at least they can plan. And then I was just talking to like WFCSS, and I would like council to look at, and I think Alan had mentioned that there might be some possibility for the county to look at some kind of social relief for people that like might be on really fixed income. I'm thinking of residents with disabilities that might be living on ACE right now, that their budget already, like, this increase in utility rates is going to come out of their grocery budgets. That's the bottom line. And I acknowledge that there might be a reason why they're in Gleason, because maybe the cost of living is a little bit lower. But I also do think we have to be sensitive to the people and how this is going to impact them. So I think this is moving us in the right direction of getting closer to cost recovery in a stepped way, keeping in mind that Gleason had 100% increase in their utility costs between, I believe, like over the last year or so. Just short, like over the summer, I think.
I understand we're gonna subsidize. I understand the county is gonna subsidize water. I just feel it would be better that if everybody knew what the true cost was. Like, I have no idea what
We've had it presented to us. Mike gave us a document that had, oh, sorry.
So,
I'm sorry.
but like, if we have to subsidize somebody from somewhere else for more money than somewhere else, I just want it to be transparent, because the more I go over these numbers, they're not really transparent. They're all arbitrary, right? Like, we have to find out, like, I read the Carsland or the Hazard viability. And if I read those numbers right, the people in Hazard are paying $11 a cube for their water. I mean, and they're surviving, so, I mean, all I'm saying is, I think we have to figure out what the costs are, And it's got to be, because we all know that across the board, numbers are not right. I just don't want anybody paying more than they should be paying. Like, that's, and I don't know how we get to those numbers. But I just believe that, you know, that we have to be more transparent, because these numbers are just numbers, right? They're just there to make people feel better. But if it is costing us $12 a cube for water and deletion, then the people have to be aware of that the rest of the county is subsidizing them a big amount, right?
Okay, towards that end, Tom, just if you allow me, with work at the corporation and trying to get this budget done, when that's done, we'll be able to tell exactly what the water be worth. And part of what the county's done with Wheatland Regional is allowed the employees, and we contract them back, and they're scheduling their time down to the half hour where they're actually doing and working. So at the end of the year, we'll have a much clearer picture on how much time goes into these different plants, because they're doing all the plants in the county now. So I'm thinking at the end of the year, or there, when we'll have the data to tell us what it's costing us in each of our different plants that produce the water, and much more certainty and clarity. And I'm thinking, for me, I agree with you, get the proper price out there. But if we were just to hold the rates now till we get that done, or just increase it for 1 year until we get till we see what it's costing us at all the plants, I would be a lot happier. Then if we decide to subsidize one or other or all of them, then that could be in a separate line on the bill too. Right now, I'm against the 3-year until we get some actual hard costs here. And I'm thinking with the way that Baja's got their timesheets running, he'll be able to tell you exactly how much time and how much time was spent traveling and how much the conveyance fee is in one and not in the other. Hopefully that'll be all done, but it's going to take him some time, that's for sure. Donna?
Yes, I have been getting a lot of feedback about the cost of water. And then to put it up when I don't even really have all the answers now, it seems it's going to be difficult to explain that I'm waiting for some more reporting to figure this out.
Yeah, and when Amber says the price of waters went up a lot in Gleason, that's true and that's a fact, but it's all been, the whole county's gone up the same. We haven't just said Gleason goes up this much, the whole county's gone up by the same amount. It was a percentage thing, I believe, at the time. Mm-hmm. And everybody's gone and taken up the hits, that's for sure. So, yeah, I'll let this discussion. So, sorry, Amber, I'll let you back in again, okay?
No, I'm sorry for interrupting, Tom.
Okay. Any other questions or comments or ideas?
I think what Tom was alluding to as well is the way we're setting this up right now, everything's the same. And Carsland is definitely different because the diversion license is substantially cheaper to pull it from a river than it is through WID through conveyance. So there is some of that maybe they should be looked at separately in the future. And I'm agreeing with you that also 3 years is too long because we got so much up in the air right now. So I'm thinking maybe 1, possibly 2 years, and then say it's for review, or maybe even 1 year in review with all that. And see how it all shakes out, because we got to, in my personal feeling is, we got to do it as efficiently and as cost efficiently as possible, and the less that the rest of the county residents, acreages, farms, subsidize it, the better, because nobody comes and helps those people when their wells go down. Nobody comes in, that's 100% out of pocket. I can show you 3 or 4 different people that have had to pay $30,000, $40,000 for a well within the last couple months. And they don't get any support for that, so. But they also, any new development has to be tied into a regional water line or put at some point, so we've covered that, but it's got to be fair. And if it costs substantially more, well, that's what it is. That's my personal take.
Fair and transparent, I always say. You have to have way to back it up.
I absolutely agree with that. Would council consider asking staff to put together some kind of social assistance program with like a screening process? WFCSS said that they have some screening tools that they've used for other assistance programs where when there is a legitimate ratepayer that is impacted negatively by like substantial increases in utility rates, the county would consider some kind of subsidy for those individuals.
Mr. Chairman, can I offer a suggestion? I think I certainly appreciate the rates have gone up. What you have to keep in mind is we still have the lowest rates in the region. In Strathmore, it's $2.35 a cubic meter. An average bill for a couple in Strathmore is about $140 a month. And our residents are paying considerably less than that. Even with these rates, we're still going to be quite a bit below that. What's the rate going to be per cube, Mike? Turn your mic on.
That's no good. There's a few, Mike don't like the mic. Yeah, sorry, as I was saying, actually, Chestermere is 268, Strathmore is 223, Carstairs 240, Okotoks 184. So we are substantially lower than a lot of communities surrounding us.
So how do you judge on what kind of a fair program you would have? Do you judge it on a regional basis, or do you judge it only on Wheatland County, or I guess that's what the direction would have to be if council wants to go down that route. There is avenues for people that are low income to access funds outside of the county. There's provincial programs. WFCSS can assist in helping people attain those funds. Some of them are not ideal programs, I'll admit. I think we just have to understand, or council has to give us some direction as far as what we're comparing it to. Perhaps it's a discussion for committee of the whole next week a little bit further, if council wants to think about that. Because I think we'd be remiss in saying, yeah, we're just going to compare it to what our rates are now, even though we have, like, used to be 96 cents a cubic meter, which I can tell you, a place like Tofield, it's $4.21. That's what they pay. That's what they have to pay the capital region in Edmonton for water, and they're not making money on that. They're breaking even. So what do we compare it with? We compare it with a provincial average, a regional average. I don't know. Chestermere is maybe not a fair example because there is higher end homes there, perhaps. That's one way to look at it for sure. So I think there's some dynamics we need just to understand where council would like to go with that. So
through the chair, I'm going to stick my redneck out. I am totally opposed to any kind of a grant program for your, well, whatever it is, because it isn't general. It isn't for it's only for specific. And I'm sure, I'm taking a wild guess here, but I'm sure if they took a real means test, none of them would qualify for any kind of support for us to pay for their water. Because I know yeah, it sounds like it's high, but I know some rural farmers, for landowners that have had to go to deep well servicing because they couldn't find any water shallow, and there's no support for them to dig a deep well and put in a deep well service. They don't even think about it. That's just part of living where they're living. And I think if it gets down to where they can't afford it, then they have to look at other alternatives.
Any other thoughts? I agree with Ben. I think I would prefer if we're having any social type thing, if you could bring it up with FCSS or one of them and have them think about it if they would like to do something like that. I think that would be a good place to start. I know this talk was coming for a long time, just waiting for it, but I think Ellen had a good thought there. Maybe we can hold it over to committee of the whole. This would give us some time to think about it. Then we have a committee of the whole meeting next week. You might be able to have a better thought process, not saying a process, but you'll have time to think about it, what the different comments were made. And bearing in mind that what others charge, and we're going to be hit with a real evidence-based charge here whenever we get the audited statements done and we get all them numbers worked out. So if I could have a motion one way or the other to accept this or defer it to committee of the whole, Tom?
Well, I'm not sure about, I would go with approve the recommended rate structure, but for 1 year. And that will gives you guys something to go off of, and it gives us time to look into this and start formulating a plan going forward. So I'll make a motion that we approve the rate structure for a 1 year period and revisit it in 1 year's time.
So that would be the September 1st, 2018 row there? Is what you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay.
So just to be clear on the motion, so your motion is to approve the September 1st, 2018 rates only,
Yeah.
correct? Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. And would it be fair to say that we could carry over the discussion to the committee of the whole and start this process? Included on next week's meeting? Okay.
Oh. Nice.
Okay. Okay, request for decision, a refund for calcium chloride. Council's wishes. Scott?
I'll make the motion that Wheatland County Council issue a refund check in the amount of $1,099.60 due to overpayment. Seems pretty clear.
Okay. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Request for decision, overhead lighting, Speargrass main access. Council's wishes? Go ahead.
I'd like to make the motion for a Speargrass community to install option A, or for the county, 2 decorative streetlights with underground wiring at the entrance of the community off of Highway 24 with funding from the Capital Contingency Reserve.
Any questions? Okay, all in favor? Carried. Request for decision, request for dust abatement, Strathmore and District Agricultural Society.
If I'm reading this right, have we done this before, or is this a new ask?
Yeah, we've done this before.
2016, we did support, not to this extent. It was about half the, actually less than half the amount, but I think
So-
Councillor Armstrong could speak to
My other
history that
question
goes
is,
back further than that, if you so desire.
the town does control within the town limits themselves, do they not? I'm sure I've seen them do it. Or
We
I've
have-
seen water trucks.
We have in the past supported them, and I'm not going to go into any detail about it, but we have done it. And a couple of years ago, I was at one of their funds raisers, and that was going to be my comment. I don't have an off option problem helping them out with that, because it does, a lot of our ratepayers use that, and it does create an issue. But my issue again is the same thing. They had an appreciation night for all their sponsors, and the only person that recognized Wheatland County for what they did was the manager of the infrastructure that put all the work into the fairgrounds. They were not recognized at the recognition night on any of the boards or anything else. And that was my comment to the chairman of the Ag Society at that time. So the same thing goes here. I don't mind doing that, but when we do this, we need to get the recognition that's due for doing that, because too many times we get told we aren't helping these different municipalities or different groups, and we are supporting them, and we're not getting the recognition for it. So I don't have an issue with the support. I have an issue with the recognition.
We have supplied a water truck as well for the track. Yeah. But during that, I'm just thinking out of the box here, during the event going on, that same water truck could water down the road. If he's there anyways, being paid to, right?
Good at the same time. But
Yeah, just for the event, that's all I'm
Yeah.
thinking, he's there anyways.
I don't know, do we have any information on what we did last year or the previous year?
There was no work done last year, so that's
Okay.
pretty easy to report on. But in
Previous year.
2016, the amount of work amounted to around $4,000, and it was essentially that one main road going in there. It wasn't the other circular
Yeah.
roads. The water trucks may work. Unfortunately, I think the cost could be a lot more than we anticipate because it's more than just one event they're looking at. They're looking at a number of events, particularly the rodeo, or stampede, sorry. But I think a water truck would have to be there probably for the whole length of the stampede. So if we work that cost in, we haven't done that. The request was for dust control. We go in there, do the dust control, it'll be good for the year, right? So we can certainly do that and bring that back. It's, if council so wishes, we can compare what water would cost and having somebody there to do that. If it rains, then we don't have to worry about it.
Plus, the issue, if you use a water truck, it has to be going in and out. And that's where the public is. Out there on the track, it's different. That's where your animals and your competitors are. But I'm not crazy about the idea of the water truck out where the public is, creating mud and creating all the other issues that come along with it. It doesn't,
Splashing their nice white dresses.
no, yeah, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
The other thing is, it's not just that area. I mean, the school uses that skating rink, like the town facilities use this as well. So why is not the town the ask here instead of the Ag Society? I know it's their ground, but it should be like a joint ask.
Could we direct staff to inquire with the town about maybe if the town does dust control, does calcium chloride, that we can do this as a joint venture?
The Ag Society brought this forward because it is Ag Society lands. My understanding is the town of Strathmore does not do dust control. They probably contract someone to do it, I don't know, but I can find that out if that's the question.
Because it's ag land and they figured they should ask the county. Go ahead, Amber.
My only comment was just in reference to the, like, water truck versus applying the calcium for dust control. And they do talk about a lot of other events in that area, and we have been to other events that utilize the egg grounds outside of the, kind of that one weekend as well. So I think from a strategic perspective, it would make more sense to go with the calcium that would work for like the year or for the whole season.
The other thing, I know what you're saying, but I know, here I'm going to speak for the town of Strathmore. I'm changing they do a lot for the Stampede. When it's in town, they do a lot for it, so I wouldn't want to joint venture everything that was going on in there either.
Another thought, I know from talking to Colin, there's quite a bit of recycled asphalt that the town has. Down in the wastewater area, there's a huge mountain of it. I'm thinking maybe, why don't they put that down for permanent dust control like we do? And maybe we could supply a grader and they do the hauling or something like that. They've got quite a few trucks, just so it's done, and then it's done better than with just what it is now. Because that works quite well for dust control. We're looking at it on some of our side roads, and I know the town has, or did have, a substantial amount of it. All the millings, yeah. Be something like a joint project or something to fix it better than what it is.
Okay, request for decision. What do you want to do with it?
I like Scott's idea, I like to explore, but realistically, it might take more time than this summer. So I would move that we approve the request from the Strathmore District Agricultural Society to prepare the surface and apply calcium chloride to select roadways within the fairgrounds and campground areas to be funded from donations to others at the estimated cost of $11,000. And let's just hope that this year they do a better job of recognizing our partnership. Because I agree with Ben. I think it's unfortunate even if there's donations in kind like this where it's not necessarily a cash donation, there should still be recognition that the county is extending resources to support the project.
Any questions? I guess in Ben's, I'm just trying to think here. This year is just going in straight benefit, I guess, for the Agricultural Society. Could be the town of Strathmore doesn't even know we're doing it. Would it be, I don't know if we want to send a letter to the town of Strathmore telling them what we're doing, just so they know, or if that's a concern. If it's not a concern, then we wouldn't bother. Ellen?
I can talk to the CAO if you want to talk to the mayor and let them know. I don't know that an official letter has to go. I mean, you're having regular meetings with the mayor, so
Yeah.
maybe when your next meeting, you can mention it to him.
That would maybe be a more appropriate way.
And to clarify Ben's point, I think Ben's concern was with the actual Egg Society recognition. Is that correct? Because they have like a volunteer appreciation evening and all the signage around the fairgrounds and something like maybe even.
Mr. Chairman, I've got the email ready to go and it says recognition for this substantial donation on behalf of Wheatland County. So I think that should give them notice enough. And if they don't recognize, maybe next time council won't look at it quite the same way.
Okay.
If I may, I know mentions the grading too here that we're going to do as well. I know for a fact the town has 2 graders and they do that road because I've seen them do it quite often. So we can work with their equipment and have the guys go out and spread it because I mean they have graders in town, they have guys that are doing it quite often. So.
But there again, it's the Egg Society. It's not a town of Strathmore House, right? It's a benefit, direct benefit to the, yeah. Yeah. Whether or not they get the recognition from the Egg Society. I'm just unaware, is there not somebody who represents from the county, sits on the Egg Board? Is there?
It's not municipal.
Okay, so,
Okay.
okay.
Okay, any other questions?
Just a comment,
favor?
if this goes through for
Sorry,
this
Ken.
year, this is just a comment that the discussion around the Ag Society in the town and the county, there's nothing saying they can't get together afterwards and put something together for next year.
Yeah, I'll be talking to the mayor for sure. Okay, any other questions? All in favor? Good. That's a vote. I didn't ask the other way yet. Carried. Agricultural Community, oh, thanks, Mike. Agricultural Community and Protective Services.
Good afternoon, Council. You have before you
Good
my
afternoon.
report, and this one is for April, just so you're not looking for May information because of the lag in time for stats, etc. We've kind of shifted it so it's always a month behind. So when the reports do come to you, you are getting a full month's of stat data. Because before that, you were only kind of getting 3/4, and that was starting to cause a problem and confusion. So these is up to date as I have as of this time. If you have any other questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Amber?
Angie, I was just wondering if there's an update on the Squires property in Jamaica.
Not at this time. I will be chatting with Chris this afternoon. We have a meeting. He's trying to set up a meeting with the RCMP. So we have to coordinate with the RCMP and get their support and input on this situation. We just waited for Joanne to come back from vacation. I think she came back yesterday, so we'll be touching base with her on Thursday. She's coming in to council on Thursday. I would say it's still in the first quarter of its process. Yeah.
Any other questions? Scott?
I'll move that council accepts the April General Manager's Report from Agriculture, Community and Protective Services Department.
Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Request for decision, purchase of firefighter gear.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I stand here with hat in hand to apologize to you. I didn't understand we needed 23 sets of gear, or I would have had it in my capital plan. As we were going through gear, it wasn't correctly maintained to the right standards. So when we took over both Wheatland and Carsland actually had a surplus of gear. And for sure, firefighters can hurt gear so much that we can condemn it, which has happened. So we took some of the surplus from Carsland and used it in Wheatland, but on further inspection and regular maintenance. So in order to buy expensive stuff, we need to keep it in service. And so it gets sent for proper cleaning and maintenance through certified cleaners and maintenance. And we have an unusual number that were condemned this year. And some of it was some of the older surplus that we had in Carsland as a result of some of it being condemned. So I stand here asking for 23 sets of gear when typically I budget for 5 or 6 a year. And that is an embarrassment on my part. I'm sorry, I hadn't realized how much in a defect we were with those two departments.
Just a question, Judy. In our original fire agreements, we had a place in the grant money for gear. Now for Strathmore and Carsland, do they still keep that same process, or is it just budget items now?
So because this is such a large purchase, it's considered a capital purchase, and we would have normally brought it through the capital committee to bring forward to you as a recommendation. Carsland and Wheatland currently are functioning on the same allotted amount of money that everybody else gets. So, and typically what they do is take that money and divide it by 10 groups, and they give Wheatland West 2 portions of it. So it's, I should know this off the top of my head, I'm sorry. It's, I believe they get 75,000 this year. And so Wheatland West would get 150,000, but they're running 4 times more of the calls. So that was decided well before my getting here. So everybody else gets 75,000. And that's operating that they get. And capital, it comes out of another revenue stream. Is that what you're asking?
That's the question I asked. But this is, of course, above that. Any other questions? Scott?
Just for information, what's the average life of turnout gear now?
That's an excellent question through the chair. Before 2009, we didn't actually have to have a life of gear. So there was no understanding that gear would expire or that we'd rip the inside out of it or burn or any of that. In 2009, OH&S legislation changed. And so since 2009, so just for the last 9 years, we've had to be accountable for gear in its life cycle. So it's been given a 10-year life cycle. And I am preparing council to see this request come from our other departments as well, because we're all being caught short. And, you know, prior to 2009, it didn't matter. Gear was expected to last until it had too big a hole that you couldn't patch it anymore. That's not acceptable standards. So we do have some of our other departments who were smart, like what I'm trying to do here, buy gear when it's at a lower cycle in price, that have gear that has never been worn, that is coming to the end of its life cycle. So we'll be seeing this as a more frequent topic as OH&S regulations tighten.
Okay. Amber?
Because there was economies of scale, like buying the 2 years in one, is there a way to assess what those other departments need now and integrate that into this buying plan?
In an ideal world, yes, and no. They've all been buying different kinds of gear, and they want to continue to do what they're doing without, I've been trying to get us to group buy for a long time. We get a much better rate on foam, on trucks, on a number of things, and they would like to stay very independent and have control over what they're purchasing and when they're purchasing. And for the most part, from what I can see, they're managing themselves pretty well. It's just that we have two departments, and then with Gleason and Clooney, we'll have to look at this again, I think, because gear must be maintained. There's maintenance standards, there's NFPA standards that we have to meet. So I did mention to them that we are purchasing gear, and some of them have already got this gear for themselves. So there's been a change in the industry. We could only buy a couple of really good brand names previously. Morning Pride and Globe were them. And a new company by the name of Initech has come out. They're a Canadian company. And they've come out with the superior gear at a much lower cost. And so gear typically runs around $3,500 a set, and this we're getting for, don't have to look and see, $2,300. So they are continuing to purchase separate, despite my encouragement otherwise.
Any other questions? Tom?
Just a clarification. And I understand it's going to cause a poking a hornet here, but since we're supplying the majority of the monies for this operation, should we not have control of where you're spending your money? Like, if you can save money in a buying group, it would make sense that if the equipment is the same, it should come through that buying group. That would just be a logical thing to do, and yet I have a feeling from what I've been hearing that this is going to be, you know, some sort of questioning their independence and all this kind of stuff, that we're being heavy-handed. I'm just trying to be practical with our ratepayers' money. So, can we have staff look at a buying group proposal so that council can look at it and make that decision for all of the county, to whether or not it makes sense to buy fire trucks and everything through a buying group?
Through the chair, I agree with you to a point. But I think if you want buy-in, you have to come up with a proposal and show them what the savings is if they go into the buying group. You got to put it together, say, here's what you'll save $15,000 in the next year if you go together with us on our buying group. You got to show them those numbers, and then let them, oh, okay, maybe, and you'll get one or two that will come, and then eventually it'll happen. But if we start doing, if we do it the other way and just say, well, you will do this, that we're going to do exactly what they said we've been going to do for the last 8 or 9 years. I know so, but we're still, as Judy said, they're still doing a good job of it. They're still raising some of the funding for it. Yeah, we're putting in a good majority of it, but if we think it's the right thing to do, then show them. Prove it to them. Show them the map, show them the numbers. They're smart enough, they'll figure it out.
I would think, Ben, Wheatland County has bought through a buying group for years. We've been part of, there's a reason why we've done this. And my question is, turnout gear, does it have to be sized to the individual, or do we buy large, medium, smalls? Or is it all measured custom? Okay. So that's something that greatly affects that decision as well. But if we can get and buy, say, 50 or 60 turnout gears and they're all made and we get a cheap, way cheap price on it, why not? I mean, that just makes sense for everybody. It's all the same fire rating, it's all, as long as it's proven safe. Saying.
I'm a little more cautious if we're going to go down this road. This is a discussion we have to have with all the fire associations in attendance. These, when originally was before I was here, but this money was raised as a contracted service and we paid for it. No different than we paid for somebody grading our roads and we don't tell them what kind of graders to buy. They have to be accountable to their shareholders. If it can be shown that we pay $2,000 and they're paying $4,000, are they being accountable to their shareholders? I guess that's the way we should go about proving it. If we can ask them the question, why are you spending twice as much as we are? I think those are fair questions to ask at the time. To go around the other way and say, I'm thinking if we all bought it together and we can do a better deal, I don't want to go down that road. I think we prove it to them and have them come on board on good faith, and I think the rest will fall in line. Look after our own house and the rest will look after itself, I think. Judy?
Through the chair, everything you said makes sense, and we're just not there yet. I've already tried. We all need to look at our breathing apparatus, and that has gone from back in the day, a couple $1,000s to just under $9,000. That's one bottle, one harness, one mask, and we typically like to have 2 bottles. And everybody their BA is expiring, and there's new standards now on breathing apparatus, so occupational health and safety standards. So I had several presentations come in to the chief's meeting, and they decided on one. I thought it would be great if we could do a group purchase, even if it's 5 sets a year for everybody or 2 sets. That's very, very expensive. A year for everyone, so that we can continue to buy over the long term instead of going out and spending $500,000. And they thought it was a great idea. Then they went out and did whatever they wanted. They are their own departments. We are contracting to them. The new bylaw is taking us down a road that will help us get a little more organized. And I never want to be heavy-handed. I want to respect their right to purchase what it is that they want. But I would like to show them that when we get together and decide what that is, good, better, and different, it'll be better for everybody. And we're making better investment. But at this time, I don't feel with the things that we have in place, we have authority to make them do anything. So anytime I go to make a buy, or I let them know and I include them, and more often than not, they're already ahead of me. Rockyford has this gear. They're starting to replace it with this gear. So, or they're at the same spot, or they've done their own decisions. And at this point, I don't have authority to make them anything, and nor would I want to.
But there's nothing wrong with tracking, keeping our own records. And when they submit their audited statements in, we can go over them and we can prove to them that there's savings to be had. That's some of our work to do. Okay. So anyway, we're still back at buying some turnout gear. Any other questions? Scott?
I'll make the motion that council approve the purchase of 23 sets of firefighter gear for Wheatland West and Carsland Station as a cost of $54,395 plus GIST from the Fire Capital Reserve.
Any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Voting? Have to vote. Opposed? Okay. Carried.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure I understand, sorry.
Nope, I'm good, sorry.
Okay.
I would have voted.
Okay.
I'm in favor.
Yeah.
Trying to still-
Okay. Yeah, just a caution, if you're not ready to vote, let me know.
Sorry.
Okay. But you have to vote on each and everything. Thanks, Judy, for coming in. Okay. This here's for information you handed out?
Yes, that's the invite. Chairman, I just received that from Judy when she came in regards to the invite for training session, and council's invited to go on June 24th and experience what it's like to be a volunteer firefighter.
Okay.
Also says you're going to get a chance to try some of that.
Yeah.
They're first responders too.
Yeah, they're good at that too. Okay. Okay, we'll include that in as our correspondence. 5. Request for decision. Okay.
which one was it? One where we were invited to participate with, Recreation Committee, that's the one.
I think that's in the correspondence.
Yeah, isn't that what you're on?
Yeah, that's what I'm on right now. I'm on the Badlands. We have their board meeting minutes.
Oh, you're going through them one at a time.
Yeah.
Sorry, I
Okay.
thought, okay,
I'll be getting to it.
I gotcha. Okay.
And we have, I guess, 2 sets of board meeting minutes from the Badlands.
Just a question on, is there somebody on the council that sits on?
Board now. Come that close. We have nobody sitting on the board of the Badlands.
Well, why is that, why not?
Because you have to be elected, and I put my name in, but.
There's a board of directors. There's like 63 municipalities are members of the Badlands, and out of that 63, they have a board. Yeah, we were very close.
Okay, no,
And we have had residents on the board, like Terry.
From the county, she's on the board.
She's on the board, so we do have local representation.
There was a time we were the treasurer, yeah. Maybe in the future. We have interagency minutes here. Oh. Okay. Okay, interagency minute. Questions on interagency? I went and lost. Oh, Standard 4-H Sheep Club sent a letter inviting us to their sale tomorrow night, I believe it is. Sales at night, the shows tomorrow during the day. Beef too, yeah. FCM letter, advocacy report. Letter from Mayor Council Strathmore. No, this is a little different one. Plains Midstream Canada, a letter from them. This is maybe the letter you're thinking about, letter from Strathmore. They're striking a committee for the needs of recreational servicing in the town and county. And we had one of these 2 years ago, and we invited them to our.
I don't have a problem, but I think it's a good idea.
This kind of came about, I was at Western Day at the school, and Councillor Corbeil that was there from Strathmore, and she had mentioned this to me, and we talked about it at length quite a bit. And I said exactly that. I said, well, we need to assess what the county has before, and she says, well, you guys should be there. And I said, absolutely, because from my understanding in the past is we've been asked at the end of the process, and I thought it would be good to have us in at the start of it. I'm not saying that I want to be the person there or anything like that, but basically assess what's in the county, because they were talking about ball diamonds, and I said, well, if you guys use Nightingale, if you used here and here and here, oh no. And I said, well, maybe we need to put money there and fix up these ones so you guys can use it, or look at everything. Like, I don't think it's a bad thing. Then we know what's coming at us years down the road for the whole, everything work together, so that's where that's coming from. But she said they were doing it regardless, and she just asked if we wanted a seat at the table.
Yeah, and I don't see a problem being that committee for the service. Strathmore services, I think it's a great. But it's the same thing. We went through this a few years back when they were putting a swimming pool in, and they were trying to dictate who was paying for that and how they're paying for it. Out in my area, there was absolutely no support for that at all because everybody out there went to Drumheller. They were all members of the Drumheller. But the same thing again, this is fine for it. And knowing that there's diamonds in his R is fine, but just the idea that this letter is telling me that this committee will design the recreation serving the county with the town of Strathmore will meet way too much opposition once you get east of the, so.
I think it's a great idea, and I actually wouldn't mind, I'll put my name for it, I wouldn't mind being on this committee. In fact, that I think we have to have the communication between, because it'll definitely affect my ratepayers and will not affect your ratepayers. Although we can maybe do some work on making that.
It might affect some of mine.
Yeah, but like, if we can sort of bridge the gap so that they can become aware of what facilities we have that are available, that are going to be underutilized and all that kind of stuff. I think just sitting on it, I don't think we'd be making decisions. Whoever sits on that board is not going to be making a decision and say, yeah, we're going to spend $8,000 on a new skating rink in Strathmore. I don't think we're going to give, that kind of thing. So.
Any other, Amber?
Ben kind of acknowledged it, but I think we can't discount that something like, in a partnership with Strathmore, couldn't benefit all residents in the county, because I've actually been surprised at how far some people travel for recreation opportunities for their kids. And there are people from far out in the east that are traveling into Strathmore, or even, I don't specifically know your division, Ben, but I've been shocked some of the people in Jason and my divisions that do travel into Strathmore or to services there, because they're just finding good services there. So I think it's a great idea. I think it would be perfect for somebody like closer to sit on that committee. And I appreciate the sentiment that and I'm glad you brought it up, that we need to be in on this from the beginning and from the planning stages. And just like you said, to be surveying, doing some inventorying of what is there, what the needs are for the future, and starting to look at that together. I appreciate it.
I think if you do that and you look at it with the concept of the whole, then you need equal representation from this council. They've got 4 sitting on it, you have 4 sitting on it, or vice versa, from different areas.
Okay, any other, Donna?
Just comments. At FCM, I don't know how I got into that workshop. The listing didn't say anything about arenas, but it ended up being on hockey arenas and where to place them and where to put them in your municipalities, and how to make them more cost effective. And so I wouldn't mind going on with Tom if there's going to be some kind of something formed.
Mm-hmm. Any other comments? I just have one. It says we have created the terms of reference already. That gives me concern. I think if we go, make sure we know what the terms of reference before we show up, and if we don't like it, endeavor to get the terms of reference changed to where we can, I think that's fundamental to us participating in it in the first place. So, yeah, I'm open to motion if anybody wants to go or two, or if we want any part of it.
Mr. Chairman, would it be advantageous to get more information on this?
That's what I'm thinking, at least the
And
terms of reference.
If you're talking to the mayor, maybe he can shed some light on it.
Okay, I should have started a list here.
I would like to be on there as well. I know the original ask was probably for 1. I think it's very start, but I mean, if they want more representation, I believe the ones that surround Strathmore for sure should be there, and include like I would sit on its perspective as the whole county. There was talk about arenas, of course, and I just said we're putting money into Gleason, so if that can be utilized more in minor hockey, and that's why I said the needs of what we have now. Let's do a assessment of what's in the county now and what can be used or upgraded or would be critical of that, instead of just putting everything into Strathmore.
And the programs too, because the pond hockey program there is unique in that it's, it's a different program. And so some people might be interested in that, and they might not even be aware of it in town.
Perfect for a board like that. They can bring all that information together and filter it out to the different clubs and say, hey, this is here, or we're going to be upgrading here, or we're going to be, utilize what we have first, and then that's the approach I had on it.
So if you're looking for a motion, I'd put a motion on the floor that we appreciate the idea, and if they wouldn't mind sending us the terms of reference so we could look them over, and if we have any concerns, then we get back to them. The idea is great, but like you said, I'd like to see what their terms of reference are too.
Just a question, is your motion for a letter, or can it just be a informal conversation, the mayor to the Reeve?
Well, either way, I don't want to go on the committee until I know what I'm going on to. So I don't care how you do it. I don't care how you do it, as long as the motion's on the floor that we, before we make our decision, that the Reeve or the letter, whichever way you want to do it, I don't care. No.
Wants terms of reference, and then, okay. Any other discussion? All in favor? Carried. Anything else out of the correspondence? That's including this other letter too. If not, a motion to accept his information. Don has moved. Accept his information. All in favor? Carried. Okay. I think we got it, except my little in-camera issue. It's not an issue. It's direction. So it's about labor. It's about